Hello, everyone. My name is Shama. We are back for yet another edition of our Real Talk panel discussion series. Today, we have three amazing guests on today. We're going to talk about everything and all things about doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and being over the age of 50. Today, we have on Michelle Wagner. She's a black belt out of Foster Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. She's also a systems engineer in IT and an adventure seeker. She is also, I believe, you're number 13. Is that correct? Of women in
Number
America?
13.
Number 13. Woo! She's a dirty dozen.
I am
The baker's dozen.
the baker's dozen.
Hey, you know what? I like baking goods, so hey, that's even better. So, we're really excited.
Exactly.
You've been a part of the scene for a really long time. You've had the unique viewpoint as an instructor, as a student, as a competitor, and now you're still out there competing, like killing it in the Masters 5. After how many years of being in jiu-jitsu now?
25.
Woo, that's
Yeah.
a lot.
And yes, I feel it everywhere.
Good. Let's talk about that. We also have on Deanna Yohe. She's a second-degree black belt out of Tennessee. She's been training since 2008. She earned her black belt in 2015. She's a mother of 6 grandchildren of 1.5, expecting soon, second grandchild. She had a full hysterectomy in 2019. She's also an IBJJF Masters 5 middleweight world. Did I cut out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did it stop at?
She started in 2008.
All right. She started in 2008. She earned her black belt in 2015. She's a mother of 6. She had a full hysterectomy in 2019, and she is also an IBJJF Masters 5 middleweight world silver medalist. She was competing for a long time, teaching as well. And last but not least, we have Gretchen on with us. She is a nutritionalist. She's based out of Atlanta, Georgia. She's originally from South Dakota. She's a former firefighter and paramedic. Her and her husband own a CrossFit gym. She's also a nutritionalist and has a very unique perspective as both a practitioner, athlete, and as well.
You're good so far.
I think you got it. You got the gist of it. That's good.
All right, awesome. You know, there's a lot of women. Jiu-jitsu's on the rise for women as a whole, and you're seeing a lot of masters women coming in. And I'm curious to get your perspective of what is the difference in how you approach training now that you're in your 50s?
Randomly just answer. I didn't know if you want one of us to go first. Or,
yeah, just go. No particular order. I'm just like, and in regards to like how you approach your training on the mats, like does your age play a factor at all for you personally?
For me personally, it definitely does. I'm definitely a slower person than I was even 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. So how I approach the mats today is far different. I try to take more of the what are you going to do now rather than the reaction. So reacting to someone isn't always the best game plan anymore. It's like, okay, how do I watch what you're doing better and find my pressure rather than my athletic skill to get out of positions or control positions. I'm going to warm up here in a minute, I swear.
Okay. What about you, Deanna? What do you have a different perspective? You've been doing it for a long time as well.
I definitely go by the train smarter, not harder. Professor Fabio one time asked me, how long realistically do you want to do this? And I said, the rest of my life. And he says, well, then you need to be smarter about this. We don't need to be picking the biggest person in the room to play with. It's just not a smart thing to do. I am definitely more mindful of who I'm training with and how I'm training. Slow it down a little bit and, got to protect the joints and everything else.
Absolutely. No, and that kind of moves into the next question I have is, has your kind of regimen as far as preventative care and as far as, recovery, has that changed? How does that look these days?
Michelle, you go.
It has changed drastically. Recovery is not quick. And being smart, like when you first go in, when you're younger, you run in on the mat, and you're like, yeah, let's get going. And you just start warming up with the roll. And now it's like, yeah, hold on a sec. Let me get some fluid moving in my joints a little bit. Let me get a little, the jumping jacks and things like that. Those make a big difference today than when you're younger, when you're like, yeah, I don't need that stuff. But recovery, it's eating before, it's eating after, it's eating the right foods for me now. It's no more that, oh, I'll eat after I'm done training. There's no more of that, eating whatever I want as much as I want. But more importantly, eating enough now. I didn't realize how little I was eating until all of a sudden it made a huge difference in everything I did every day, just getting up and going to work. So it's nutrition, definitely nutrition.
Nutrition, getting enough sleep,
Yeah.
drinking enough water, all of that.
Yep. I'm terrible at these panels. I'm just realizing I'm listening to myself going, I have no idea what the question was. What did I just say?
It's okay. We're super informal. We got no sponsors here, so. But what about you, Gretchen? Michelle tapped a little bit onto the nutrition aspect. What would you kind of add on to that? Like, what do you have any clients?
Say recovery too, because you're right.
Yes.
Are you okay?
Oh
You're
yeah.
good?
I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
going in and out. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gretchen. I wanted to see if you had any kind of anything that you'd like to add, since this is your area, and I know Michelle tapped into the nutrition aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle nailed it. It's honestly a lot about to move well, so you don't want to have all those heavy foods in you. You don't want to be overeating. To be really mindful, but it's different for everybody. Everybody's going to have their own amount they need, their own food timing. So it's really important to really kind of take some time to figure out what works best for you, and just dig in, like almost like you're taking a summer college course in yourself. Take some time to track your food, take some time to track how you feel before and after training. Like, do that work, because there's some things across the board that apply to most of us, but it's very individualized.
It took me months to figure that out. I'm still figuring it out. It changed. It just changes constantly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
What about you, Deanna?
Yes, luckily I've got a personal trainer, so he puts my meal plans together. But even with the proper nutrition, rest, and water, and all of that, I was noticing being tired and not even really wanting to lift or cardio. So for me, in addition to the foods and changing what and when I eat, I've had to add hormone replacement therapy.
Oh, wow.
And how is that? How has that kind of changed your recovery and performance?
My joints and everything hurt all the time. And then just little things I kept noticing here and there. I mean, I was falling asleep during the day at work. I work 10 to 14 hours a day. So I'd get home, I'd sit down and fall asleep. Now I can stay up till 10 o'clock if I want to, or if I have to, I can. But before, nah. I think I've been on the hormone. Like, so that was thing that's into menopause. Well, so it has made a huge difference. My trainer has noticed a difference. I can get through the workouts. So
that's awesome. That's actually great to hear.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's great that you were able to figure out what was actually going on and actually address it. Right.
Well, my OBGYN is actually a friend of mine. I was her trainer. So I called her up and she sat down with me. And, it helps having somebody you're comfortable talking to. because
Yeah.
that's a lot of things that it just is not discussed right across the board. It affects everything: work, relationships, workouts, jujitsu.
It does. It absolutely does. I think that's when you
That's a
talk
great
about
point.
us, yeah, being in our, being in our 50s. I think it hurts your ego more than anything, especially when you've come from a place where you started it young enough where you could run in circles all day. When all of a sudden, you're
Yes.
like, what is happening to me? Why is this so hard when I could do this naturally any other time of my life? It's
You know,
such an ego boot,
yep.
ego killer.
Physically, I feel about 15 years younger.
Wow,
Wow.
that's awesome. Holy
That's
crap.
amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
And it's just been just a little bit, just a little bit of hormone on the thigh every night. And, I like taking another pill daily, and I'm good to go.
Wow. That's awesome.
What advice would you have to a newbie that's kind of
That's
coming
great.
in if they're over the age of 50 and how they should approach their training, especially from the perspective of somebody who's brand spanking new? Did I break up?
Yeah, we lost you.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. I was gonna say, what kind of advice would you offer somebody who's brand spanking new that's coming into jujitsu in her 50s? And like, you guys have years and years and years of experience, your black belts, but if you're brand spanking new, what would you tell her? Like things to kind of be conscious, be aware of, to pay attention to your body, to help her with her training as well.
I
Go ahead, Michelle.
I think the first thing I'd tell her is listen to her body. You're going to tell her the usual rules, like you do have the right to say no to whomever approaches you as far as training partners and such. But if something doesn't feel right, don't do it. Ask a question, but listen to your body. It is absolutely okay to say, I can't do that right now, or I don't, this hurts, or the workout is killing me. It's absolutely okay to take a break and work your way into it when you're ready.
Yep. Yep. I think when I started, my goal was to maybe get halfway through the warm up. And then it was to get all the way through the warm up. Modify as necessary. But yes, a little bit here, a little bit there. But yes, listen to your body and listen to other people. Try and seek out other people closer to your age, even if they're higher belts. Doesn't matter. We've all been through it.
Yeah, 100%. I wanted to ask Gretchen on her perspective from a nutrition aspect, but I think she walked out for a minute. I think she was outside, so she was going to get more light. But anyways, we'll keep going. So you guys kind of touched on it a little bit. I'm curious to see, at what point did you start to realize that the menopausal symptoms were starting to impact your training, Deanna? Like when did you put that like two and two together? Like, oh, I'm super exhausted. It's a hormonal issue.
I think it was probably in April. I was getting ready to go on vacation in Hawaii. I came darn close to canceling that trip to Hawaii.
Oh, damn.
Just anxiety, stress, and the anxiety and depression were coming out of just nowhere. I've got a good job. I eat well. I exercise. I can't get through these workouts. I kept looking at my trainer, and I had already been kind of putting two and two together. But then he looked at me and said, have you thought about hormone replacement? And I started noticing a difference. But by the month mark, I was back at the gym, and I'm back lifting. I'm able to finish the whole workout and hit all the reps, and I've been able to go up in weight, and my body weight has increased too. So that's something that, we're going to address now that my hormones are kind of leveled out.
Awesome. Have you noticed anything as with your body, Michelle, as you've gone, older now, moving into our later womanhood?
I noticed I went, gosh, I think I finished menopause like 6 years ago. So I went through it really early, and I didn't realize it at the time what was going on. Like I was in like my early 40s, mid 40s, and all of a sudden every time I would work out, like every day I would get sick, and I couldn't understand why I was constantly getting sick all the time. And the more I got sick, the less I worked out, the harder it was to come back. And then I was feeling pretty good right before COVID, and then COVID hit. And you find you're sitting around a lot because you're not walking around, you're not training and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, I'm like 20 pounds heavier going, I couldn't finish a workout. Like rolling for just for 5 minutes was like next to impossible. I'm like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. I have no idea what's going on here. And then figuring it out was, like, wow, this is really what's happening in my life. And now I need to now I need to take those next steps. I keep saying figure it out, but it took me up until February to go, I need to get my nutrition together. I need to figure this out. Like, because I had no idea it was me. It was my choices I was making along with the menopause that was making life so hard. So I was trying to correct through nutrition, which I've done really well so far. Like I ran my first 1.5 miles for the first time in, a year and a half, 2 years. And I was like, that was a huge step in the right direction going, I didn't die. Because usually you get 400 meters in and you're like, screw this, I can't finish this, but just having that endurance to get through it it's amazing. It was amazing for me to figure that out. So that's why I'm so happy that you figured out the hormone therapy, because like anything when you can get a little bit back in your life, that's huge. That's
yes, but
huge.
I didn't realize that the hormone replacement therapy was such a touchy subject.
I've never had the discussion with anybody about it. I've honestly never even thought about it. That's why I was like, oh wow, I'm interested to hear everything about it from you.
Yep. I'll talk about it, and then there's two schools of thought. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not having that. And then there's people like me. Yeah, come on, bring it on. I'll do whatever I can.
I'm curious, Michelle, what were some dietary changes that helped you?
So I actually found a nutritionist. I probably talked to 5 or 6 different people, and my criteria was they had to be at least my age and they had to be athletic. Because like I train at a fantastic CrossFit gym in the Linwood, Washington area, and the couple there is fantastic. And there's a lot of people who have a lot of nutrition experience, but that are young. And so I had a hard time listening to what they were telling me, because I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous. You can't eat that much in a day. I don't, and so I would just kind of like half discount what they were telling me and be like, no, that's just that you don't understand. You got to be my age. So I literally found someone who was my age. And I'm like, oh shit, they were right.
I wonder where that was going. Actually, I was like, "Oh no, this is gonna be bad."
No, it was just it was like my ego was like, no, that's not right. Like my ego was getting in the way of common sense and stuff. But as soon as like I found out by like I had you track everything you eat every day for like 2 weeks, you're like, and you start like, for me, I got the scale out and started measuring things again, because I used to be pretty strict paleo, but I hadn't done that like 5 years. And paleo, by the way, in my personal opinion, is not the right diet for an athlete. For some, when I was younger, I didn't notice it, but as I'm older now, and maybe you as a nutritionist can verify this claim, but paleo is a bad idea. It's great for a quick weight cut, I think, but I think for long-term health, I think it has a lot of negative effects if that's your permanent lifestyle, if you're athletic. Because that's kind of the way I feel about it, the damage I did. But I would weigh everything. And then they're like, well, you're only eating like 1,100 calories a day. I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of food for me. And they're like, no, you need to double that. And I'm like, no, I tried that. And I gained weight like instantly. And they're like, nope. And I'm like, okay, I'm trusting you. And I did. And I started feeling good. I didn't crash at the end of the day when I get done with work. I could make my workouts. I was coming back at CrossFit. I could start doing my the WODs to completion. Still, I wasn't going for an RX, but I was completing WODs, which is like, amazing. And then it was like, okay, now how do I wasn't gaining weight either, which was huge. And it's like, now how do I get back to where I was in my weight class without, a huge deficiency? And so learning how to manage my weight based on what I was doing, how much I was working out, and then adding walking into my whole routine just changed everything for me. So I'm a very happy person today. I still get tired, but where I was even 6 months ago, it's like night and day.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
I'm okay. I want your take on this, Gretchen.
I'm like,
it's your turn.
I mean, Michelle had so many great things in there as far as like what I would say, because I think there are a couple of really important things to know or to consider about menopause around nutrition. For one, the basics still apply. You start menopause, you don't have to completely reinvent the wheel. You don't have to like take all these crazy supplements and do all these detoxes and avoid carbohydrates and do all these things.
Colon
the basics
remover.
still apply just like it is. Yeah, all those things. Yeah. The colon cleanser. Like,
yeah, that's it. The colon cleanser.
Kidneys, you don't need a detox. That's what your kidneys do. That's what your liver does. So you don't have to start doing all these crazy things. If you haven't, tracked your food or really, dove into that yet, that's a good time to start doing it. But if you've already had your nutrition on point, chances are you may need to tweak a few things. Maybe you watch your calcium levels or vitamin D levels a little more, but it's the same things. Get your adequate protein, get your fiber, get the right amount of calories for your training, because if you're getting the right amount, if you do eat more, it might seem counterintuitive, but you're going to translate those calories, that energy into your training. You're not going to gain weight. You're going to have that fuel, and so figuring that balance. So you don't have to, do all these drastic things necessarily. It's more about going back to the very basics and figuring out those things first. And then from there, okay, maybe we do need some supplements and things. And the other thing I think is important is to know that nothing is broken just because you go through menopause. It may not feel natural, but it's a very natural thing that your body goes through. So it's not like your metabolism is broken. It's not like your hormones are broken. Hormones are just very powerful, things. It's going to feel overwhelming. So a lot of times and Deanna, you have this hormone replacement therapy that has worked so well for you. It's important to work with a doctor who can sit down with you and say, okay, what's going on with you? What's best for you? Some people that may work for, some people it may not, but you were able to sit down with someone you trust. And I think that is something I suggest to a lot of my women clients is, if you don't have a doctor you trust, time to find a new doctor in this season of life. You need somebody who, if they don't specialize in nutrition, who will admit that and will refer you to somebody. If they don't specialize in, don't know anything about mental health, refer you to somebody. Work is more of you need a team approach and to go through something like this. So
a good point.
Yeah, don't feel like you have to do all these crazy things, and don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to gain all this weight because my metabolism's broken. None of those things are true. It's about, you really have to spend some time diving into your own health, and you can figure it out. It's just going to take some time, probably some trial and error, but be patient with yourself and be persistent. Like, pursue yourself, pursue your own health, and you'll be able to perform just like these ladies. I mean, these are both extremely solid success stories just from taking the time to really care about themselves and their health. I think it's so awesome.
That's really cool. No, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I think that was a lot. I'm curious, like, did you find that, so you found you had more of an exercise intolerance? Because I have read that sometimes exercise does help reduce some of the symptoms.
Because her facial expressions are great.
Like that one.
You were frozen again, so we were talking about it.
We're making fun of you.
No, I was gonna say I'm curious on exercise. So I noticed both of you kind of mentioned having more of an exercise intolerance, but I have read that sometimes exercise can help reduce the symptoms. Did you find that was kind of more just the opposite, or did you notice that exercise did kind of help a little bit as well?
Exercise did help me, but it was kind of twofold. I knew once I got done with the workout, I felt better, but I also couldn't do everything that I knew I was supposed to be doing. So I was only able to get half of it done. And then, I was so tired, I was trying to drag myself there. So if I'd miss workouts, then I was beating myself up about that. And so I kind of just needed to put it all together. And then now I'm good.
Nice.
I am
What
right
about
there
now?
with you. Yeah, right there. Exactly the same thing. It's like it helped, mentally you're beating yourself going up. It's like, oh, that's a third of what I used to be able to do or should be able to do. And so you just start mentally kicking yourself for going, what's going on?
Yep. Why? What is going on? Why am I so tired? What's going on? And then, he confirmed what I really already had been thinking. So
What about you, Gretchen? I know you own a CrossFit gym and you work with a lot of different women. Have you noticed in the clients that you have, the students that you have there, that kind of does or doesn't, or I'm curious on your take.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Because I mean, it goes back to the hormones again, really. The hormonal changes you have, like the hormones that decrease and then there's some that increase. And with that, you're going to have more fatigue. You do run the risk of, less muscle mass and more fat. So and you don't have to do CrossFit. I know I'm biased towards CrossFit, but any kind of resistance training, I mean, in my opinion, strength training is like literally the fountain of youth because it's going to help, like you're going to have less calcium absorption. What helps with bone density other than calcium? Strength training. What helps with maintaining good muscle mass? That's going to be strength training. Yes, you need adequate amount of protein to support that, but you can't maintain muscle without strength training. So when you have these hormone changes, you have you have hot flashes, you have less energy, you have more fatigue, you have a lot of times the depression and anxiety and things that come with it that make you feel like you don't feel like moving. You don't feel like, I'm already tired and I'm kind of like having a rough day. So now I really don't want to go to the gym. That's what makes it hard. It's not that your body can't maintain a healthy weight or you can't necessarily get those workouts, and you're fighting against the hormone changes in your body. So strength training to me, like I love having menopausal women do CrossFit because I love CrossFit, but the strength training part of it to me is way more important because, and like Michelle, you touched on this too, that hour, 30 minutes to an hour you spend in the gym is so important for a lot of reasons, especially when it comes to the strength portion. But you could, as far as like intense cardio and things like that, you're getting great cardio in your training on the mat.
Yeah.
Just walking throughout the day. When you're talking about walking, Michelle, that is one of the number one things I recommend to people because moving your body through the day is so important. And that's probably the top thing that changes when you hit menopause when it comes to activity. You don't have the energy to move. You're lucky to get through training. Who wants to go for a walk or, work on step count or anything when you're done exercising? So that's something that's really helpful too. So lift some weights. If you hate lifting weights, sorry, that sucks. Do it anyway. Like it's so important for all of those things. Bone density, muscle mass. You will have energy. You just have to really think about the outcome, not necessarily the task in front of you. Think about what it's going to do for you. But yeah, I think any kind of strength training, whether it's CrossFit or not, is so critical, and it translates so well onto the mat. So well onto the mat.
Well, yeah, and if you do CrossFit, you don't have to go in there and be you don't have to PR every time you walk in the door. Sometimes it's just like, check, I did it, I'm like, oh, you're going to do 100. I'm going to do 25, Grant.
With excellent form.
Yeah. Nice and slow.
Nice and slow. Yep.
And that kind of moves me into the next topic I wanted to hit was like the objective with jujitsu, right, is to stay on the mats and train for life, right? That's and how are some ways that you guys approach like preventative care? We touched on strength training. Is there anything else that you'd like to add that you personally do for strength training, or anything else that works for you for preventative care as a whole? How do you avoid injuries?
I almost always warm up now. We we have a little different structure at our gym. We don't go in and spend the first 15, 20 minutes trying to kill ourselves with warm-ups. It's like you come in, we warm up with like specific drills or, movement drills. So I always make sure like I'm there a little bit earlier and I'm doing I'm literally doing the jumping jacks and the squats at a nice even pace just to get the body flowing. That's, because I figure I got my little 5x5 foot area I can warm up in on a mat because there's, millions of other people out there. But just those days coming in cold, that doesn't happen anymore. Because I'll sit there the next day and all of a sudden my back will seize. And I'm like, what the hell's going on back here? what's this? I'm like, oh, I didn't warm up, So, but that's definitely something that I've changed. I also drink a lot of water too, a lot more water than I used to, just staying hydrated. Because those days where I am dehydrated, I definitely feel it a lot more on the mats.
What about you,
Got
Deanna?
water. I know my glass is empty. I just finished it.
I left mine outside, didn't you?
I know. I'm like, where's my hydro flask? I left it around here somewhere.
I'll say something about hydration real quick too, because that's a big one, especially for competitors. And water, obviously we need an adequate amount of water. I usually suggest people drink maybe like half their body weight. If you're getting half your body weight in ounces, you're probably plenty hydrated. But think about the other things that hydrate you, like in your diet. And I mean, I actually have a few Jiu Jitsu athletes I work with who compete, and we talk about hydrating with like skim milk, especially chocolate milk. It's delicious. Juices. Yeah.
I gotta go.
I'm out of here.
But like watermelon's a great one. Think about the food, like the water content in your food. It's not just about water. We need those electrolytes. You do need the perfect, hydrating beverage is going to have a little bit of sugar, so that you want that fluid to get to the vessels where it needs to get. So hydration is absolutely huge. It may sound kind of gross, but one of the best ways to know if you're hydrated is just look at the color of your pee. If it's a pretty light yellow color, and unless you're taking like heavy supplements or you have like an infection of some sort, that's a great way to know. I mean, and if you're not hydrated, or you've eaten beets, yeah. Although beet juice can be really great for
beets are fantastic.
Well,
so. You got to know what you're looking for.
That's true. Yes, you do.
What about you,
Yeah,
Deanna?
hydration's
What are
huge.
some preventative things that you do for your training?
The functional type warm-ups is a good thing. My job is really physical, so I have to be careful at work. I'm lifting toilets and doing that kind of stuff. So
I just had a visual like
Like, damn,
what'd you eat?
So when I'm like doing deadlifts in the gym, that translates to work when I'm pulling toilets off the floor, and then in turn it translates to jujitsu. What you doing a standing guard pass? There's a deadlift right there.
Yep.
That I just try and make sure that I've got functional warm-ups. I'm careful at work. I'm warming up before I go to work, just to make sure I'm not going to get hurt in either place.
What about recovery wise? I'm curious to see what you foods that maybe help with that, or having your CrossFit background as well, Gretchen. Some things that you recommend to women that are in their 50s and above.
Yeah, I mean, it really honestly kind of does still boil down to just adequate calories across the day. Like some people will find that they feel better eating, pretty close afterwards. Some people don't really need that. I don't think there's any blanket way to do it. You've heard the, eat protein within 30 minutes, get adequate protein across the day. If you're one of those people where if you eat right after you feel sick, you have plenty of time to get it in. But some people do feel much more recovered if they get some, especially carbs, if you get some carbs in afterwards. So I think it's important to kind of play around with that on an individual basis and just kind of see where we feel good. But it's still staying hydrated, getting that protein, get your fiber and support that gut health, that kind of thing. Just kind of the basics, really.
Is there anything that you've changed up or added to your regimen for recovery, Michelle?
Food. So I'm actually, I've learned that if I get some food in me within like the first hour after a hard workout, uh, it's really beneficial. The days that I have forgotten to bring a snack, so to speak, I definitely can tell. I can definitely tell. I'm like, wow, I missed my post-workout snack. But my other recovery is there's just some days where there's nothing that's going to happen. That's another part of my recovery. Like today, for example, um, just getting up this morning, I'm like, yeah, this is a day where I won't be training. I hadn't, like last night was competition training. So today is like, yep, nope, no gym. We'll do a walk and we'll call it. So,
Yep. Like active rest.
yep, active. Yeah.
Yep.
So what is the secret to longevity on the mats that you ladies have found? I'm curious. You both, between the two of you, you got like what, 50 something years? How do we stay on the mats and keep training?
I pick and choose my battles today. I am absolutely okay with saying, no way, dude. Not
Yep.
not in a million years. I'm also okay with calling somebody out in a fight, going, you are fantastic. You're 19 years old and you're ripping around me. Congratulations. You should learn some pressure game.
Let
So,
me teach you.
yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna hold you down and you're gonna try to get out.
Wait,
But
you,
it's
Deanna.
funny.
Oh, go ahead, Michelle. Continue. Sorry.
It's funny because we have a lot of girls at our gym, which is great. We have a lot of newer girls, like, and they're younger, they're in their 20s, white belts, but we got like probably 15 of these blue belts. They're all like super, they're good. Like anybody who starts jujitsu today is amazing because of what's available to them, all the tools we have now. And they're athletic and they're fast. But as the first time I've had someone saying, I don't like rolling with coach because she's too rough. And I'm like, I'm like, wow, that's a first ever. I'm like, was kind of happy. And then I thought, well, what do you mean by too rough? And it's just like, well, she smashes me. And I'm like, well, I have to hold you down. Because you move too fast. But it was such an interesting conversation because it's the first time the tables are turned where you're not rolling with a strong guy. And it's like, well, he just sits there and smashes me. It's like, I get it. I gotta hold you down. And it's like, it's part of the game. It's part of what you learn along the way. It's that survival instinct. I can't run in circles anymore, so I need to find out how I keep you here. It was fun. It was a very enlightening conversation because they were okay talking to me about it. I'm like, well, tell me what you mean. Let's talk more about this because it was a first.
The tables have turned.
Yep.
What's the secret, Deanna?
Just like Michelle, I learned to say no. I don't care what you think. Oh, Deanna doesn't roll with everybody because, she just thinks she's too good, or she doesn't know how to do this, or she doesn't know how to do that. No, I'm not going to roll with you. I don't have to explain why. I don't have to. I'm a 52-year-old woman and I don't have to say anything other than no, thank you.
No, that's the truth. What about you, Gretchen? From your perspective, what is the secret to staying active and having longevity as an athlete, or just somebody fit and well?
Well, I think jujitsu in and of itself kind of provides, that service in a sense, because something that I see that ages people a lot is that they don't have anything in their everyday life that like a hobby, like, or something that brings them joy like this. They may exercise, they may get 20,000 steps a day, they may, hit their macros every day. But if they don't may work too much, they may, have unhealthy relationships. If they don't have something just every day where they can just release, refill their tank, that to me is huge for longevity. And I think jujitsu is really that thing I think probably for most of us women. But even if that becomes a stressor, I think it's important to find something. It could be volunteer work, just a way for you to decompress, get out of your head a little bit. And I think that's huge for longevity.
Awesome. Well, that's all I have. I really appreciate I think we covered a lot of areas. If there's something I didn't, please jump in. I really wanted this to be an opportunity for new and experienced practitioners that, I mean, I'm right behind you guys, so I want to learn. And if there's anything else that I didn't cover, I'd love to see what you guys would think, something good to add.
I'm sitting there thinking of like, I'm like going, what are the things? I honestly, I think my biggest advice for, everyone up and coming, we're all going to cross this phase, is figure out how to get past your ego first. Because I think that was the absolute hardest part for me, is like, how do I accept the fact that I'm not the best person on the mat, so to speak? I'm not fast anymore. I'm not tearing it up, and I can outlast any, but that's all gone. That's a much different world now. And I'm happy if I can take this to my grave. So.
Absolutely. Anything else you
Yep.
want to add, Deanna?
No.
Awesome.
No,
Anything else,
just-
Gretchen?
No, I think so.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this discussion. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Like I said, I want to learn. I want to keep training into my 70s, 80s. So I think we can all learn from each other, and especially from pioneers like yourselves. You ladies really did lead us into where we're at now, and it's amazing. I'm sure you're super proud of how far women in jiu-jitsu has gone, and you guys are inspiring us to have that longevity. You're inspiring us to keep with it. Like, there's hope. We can keep doing this into our 50s and our 60s and our 70s and our 80s. So thank you so much for being that inspiration for all of us. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you. Nice meeting everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Nice to meet everybody.